This is the Sourceseeker Hour. I'm your host, Baruti Carl Alexander. Thank you very much for joining us. This is our 84th episode, and a lot of things are happening in the world. First, I'd like to discuss what's happening with the shooting. DeJuan Wright, I think his name is, and the lady said that it was a mistake. You know, I have a son. My son is 22. I can't imagine the pain of that family. This is a sports show, but I really wanted to say that. I want to ask my guests if they wanted to comment on that before we go into our topic of sports.
I don't have a problem jumping in on that.
Say again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem jumping in on. I said I don't have a problem in making a comment on that because it's really sad when you start thinking about the way police officers are at this point in time taking advantage of the power behind their shield for protection, so to speak, and they apply whatever necessary forces that they choose to apply to men of color. And when I think about even back in the day when watching this movie, whereas they gave an illustration of all the things that they did to this little girl, but they have you close your eyes and they describe how the heinous crime that was committed. But when you think about it and they say, okay, if the person was white, then what? So, and when I said that, because when you think about what's happening now, even with this last crime, if any of these same things were happening to young white men, and it definitely if it was handed by the hands of a black officer, we'd have a different thing happening in the country right now. You'll probably have slaying, shootings, and all kind of other things that coming after us. And they definitely, all officers will probably get life or even electric chair. Lethal injection in this day and time. So I don't really appreciate the unfairness. And then they put all these families through all this hurt and pain, and then they just chalk it up and they give an excuse and hide behind the shield. I think it's sad that that's the day and time that we're in, but it's too much, and it's happening too frequent.
It is happening too frequently, and what she said was she mistook the taser for the gun, and that's a sad commentary for her to say that. If it happened, that's sad. If it was intentional, that's even worse. And, it's a very tragic thing. And, it hits close to home for me. So I just wanted to mention that. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. We're going to talk about sports, but I couldn't start the show about a sports topic without talking about the real things happening in the world. It crosses all barriers and all different situations. Did anybody else want to comment on that before we go into our sports topic? This is the Sourceseeker Hour. I'm your host, Baruti Carl Alexander, and our topic today is what is happening in Houston sports? Why are all the top athletes leaving? James Harden, George Springer, now Deshaun Watson. What's going on? I mean, Houston used to be Clutch City. The Astros won a world title. You had the Oilers. I mean, love your blue. Those were the days. What's going on today? I want to introduce my guests to talk about this, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Brother Adonnis, you know a lot about sports. Introduce yourself, brother.
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Adonnis Alexander, born and raised here in Houston, and definitely grew up watching a lot of Houston sports, so I can definitely relate, at least since the 80s, how things have been in the landscape. Right now, you can't help but just shake your head at the city. I mean, back at the beginning of the season, NBA season from last year, everything seemed like it was still somewhat intact, but the downfall seemed like it's been swift and complete. And I think in George Springer's case, it's a little different. Free agents leave all the time when they become free agents. And I think that's what George did there wasn't nothing vindicative of the city of Houston. But in the case of James Harden, and I have to say this about that because I watch a lot of ESPN. I watch a lot of First Take, the debate shows, and all of that. And one thing I have to say that's very, very interesting about that James Harden situation is you look at what LeBron did, taking his talents down to South Beach. LeBron was a free agent. Many people didn't like it, but he had the right to do what he did. And the same thing with Kevin Durant. I still say it was a weak move because of him going to an already stacked team. But what James Harden did is something I think that's a little new that we haven't really seen before, and I don't think it's been highlighted as such. What James Harden did was force his way to one of those teams while still having quite a bit of time left on his contract. And I have a big problem with that because is in my opinion, is almost like cheating. Like you're not playing within the rules of the game and you're tilting the rules of the game toward one side. And I feel like that's kind of like a form of cheating in a certain way. But I think it's a trend that, if not checked, is really gonna bring the quality of the NBA down because of the fans not really been taken into consideration when a lot of these players and organizations make some of these moves. And it's the fans who ultimately make it possible for these players to get paid the millions of dollars that they get paid because of the people that are interested in it. But these moves are starting to make the NBA a little bit less interesting. And I feel like when they do the next NBA, the agreement between the players and the owners and all that stuff, they're going to nail them. They're going to lay the hammer down on a lot of what they're doing. And I think it's going to actually, the newer generation is going to come behind these guys are the ones who are going to have to pay the price for it and not the current NBA players.
Well, you brought up some very interesting points. I'm not sure it's going to go in that particular direction. We're going to flesh that out a little bit. I'm not sure it's going to go exactly that way for a lot of different reasons. Let me bring on Brother Jolivette. Brother Jolivette, are you available? Okay, would you like to share that? Introduce yourself and then comment on what Brother Adonnis said.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, my name is Albert Jolivette. I'm a sports enthusiast. Of course, I've always loved sports. I've played sports in high school, and right now, currently, I actually work where I'm the head coach of a women's basketball team at the university. Now, as far as James Harden, I just think that the way the things going, the way that players are jumping teams or something like that, or it's pretty much just carried over. Not only through college right now, just to go play with a particular coach or a team that may be winning and has championships and things of that sort, so they can feel as though they can get to a certain level much quicker. It's happening in high school. We gotta realize what's going on with the AAU. Coaches are pushing these efforts for teams. The Nike elite teams. So it's not just in the NBA. It filters all the way down to the high school level. You're putting these 5-star recruits on one team that you'll have a team out of Vegas, but they're all coming from Texas, which is amazing. You got players that's playing for one team. They're being taught that it's okay. So it's going to get worse before it gets better. But yes, I do agree as far as like the NBA and Players Association really need to take a hold of this. And I don't know the rules. I don't know how things lays out, but maybe it could be to where you only have 2 mega stars on one team and you can only give so much to 2 players. But we have to do something to try to control these efforts and these players to go play with these super teams. It's embarrassing. But again, it's being taught at the lower levels for it to be okay, to play with buddies, to play with friends, to play with these players, to go and, for their goal to win a championship instead of trying to do it on their own.
I hear both of you gentlemen on that issue, but if we go back to the time of Kurt Flood, now, Jolivette, you might be old enough to remember the talk about the free agency that is going to destroy everything. And, you know, that was the owners who wanted to maintain a certain authority, a certain hold. Now, even if you look at the college game, it was total exploitation that they totally had them controlled. They couldn't go to another school. Free agency demands that they are treated in a respectable manner. Now, the buyout market, and they're talking about that, would happen with Blake Griffin, would happen with LaMarcus Aldridge and Andre Drummond and many others. They're saying that is unfair. And I can see, now what James Harden did, in a way, he tanked to get his way. That's what I think. And that is such a bad precedent on him. And, you know, if he really tanked to get his way, then he really wasn't the type of player who was ever going to win the championship. And, you know, we should have saw that sooner. Yes, he's great talent, but it takes a certain mentality to win a championship. So, you know, that's debatable. Brother Clayton, would you like to come in on that?
Yes. First of all, I'm like, both of the gentlemen had some excellent points. You know, I'm Byron Clay. I'm a native Houstonian, so I pull for everything in Houston. I've been every sports team in Houston. That's my team. I'm true to my team. But when you know, like what Jolivette just said, but there's no loyalty. And what happens is everybody is out for self now, and they're teaching that early on. It's not like back in the day, like with Magic Johnson, or even like with Kobe. His career was with one team. You don't see a lot of that. Andre Johnson came to the Texans, one team, pretty much his career. So you don't see a lot of that. It's like, can I buy a championship? I just want a championship. You know, no real loyalty. And what's sad about that, I think Adonnis made the comment about the fans, because that's who's paying the checks, right? So if there's no fan engagement and there's no loyalty to that, then I mean, you're just jumping from team to team, and I think that's sad. You brought up Gary Springer as it relates to his contract. Free agency is handled differently. The fact of the matter is, the Astros could have handled that differently and kept him. I feel like if they had negotiated a deal with him, he just wanted to be paid for what he does. If you compare his stats to all the other players that in that ballpark, they're getting paid much more. So it was almost like an insult to what they were trying to offer him. So to evaluate that, he just, you know, kept it moving. Say, well, I'll just go ahead and move on. It's a lot of that happening with a lot of contracts. James Harden, well, it's a lot with that. He actually could have stayed put, and we could have built around it. Got a better big man. I mean, Woods is now there. He's performing. There's a lot of things could have happened.
But Brother Clay, they went through that process. They tried to build around him. Dwight Howard. I mean, go down the line, all the people, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul. I mean, so they went through that process.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, but that's a difference though. Well, I mean, when I say build, I'm talking about building a core. When you have a core, like compared to like U of H, I'm gonna use them for example. They have a team of talented individuals that got them to the Final Four, but there's a team of unselfish players on that team, and they come together and play. Now, when you just go and buy players because of namesake, and you have a whole lot of ball hogs or individuals who all in their right can be the backbone to a team, it's hard sometimes for them to learn the mesh, to find their roles and to be supportive and take a backseat sometimes, be unselfish sometimes. I didn't see unselfish with James Harden. I saw if he touched the ball for the most part, he's shooting it. And then you have, you know, Westbrook, he didn't seem like he ever got in his lane or his rhythm, because his thing is make the ball, move the ball. He's not the best shooter, but sometimes he get in that rhythm, he just got to shoot. So everybody want to have that limelight. So it's the dynamics of the people that you're choosing too. See, a lot of the Houston teams just try to buy a championship.
I want to go into this about James Harden. Then I want to go to another subject. I just want to say he very much missed an opportunity because he could have been the next Mr. Houston, just like Akeem was, and he could have stayed. He could have. Now, what I understood was he had a disagreement with the politics of the owner, and he had a real big problem with that. So he kind of lost his spirit. The owner is into Donald Trump and all of that. This is what I heard. But see, I just said, give me more money. I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna try to build a winner. And then I'd have used those resources to go out into the community and done my thing for social justice. And you got to look at it beyond whether you like that person or not. And because he had the keys to the city, he could have, his voice could have been bigger than the owners. So I'll say that about James Harden. We're going to come back to that in a little bit because there's so much more to that. You want to cut in, Mr. Jolivette?
Well, I just wanted to say something. I want you guys to think about this when you start to think about these superstars. But all of us that's in education, I'm just going to pass this on real quick. It's the word entitlement. There was no one down in their youth. I mean, because KD was at Texas. He got everything he want. You know, Kyrie Irving got everything that he want, even though he was injured over at Duke. You know, Harden got everything he wants. So once you start to expect these ways and doing your own thing without any type of consequences, and nobody can tell you, hey man, this is not the right thing to do. There's no punishment, there's no consequences. This is going to stay within you, and you're going to embrace that feeling like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do. So there's no sense of entitlement. Can you imagine players back in the day that grew up in the hood or something like that, and they actually had to work for what they earned? They had to earn certain things. No, brother, I'm going to go get this. Now that's the selfishness that you and I may have grown up with, because now this player want to go kill you. He want to be an animal. No, he wants to beat you. Players are out for themselves. And when you find another player who's out for themselves, but for that specific goal to win a championship, oh, let's do it. No, back in the day, I want to beat you. I want to beat you to it. So it's different these days.
I understand that. Let me say, I have no problem with the athletes getting as much money as they can, because these owners are trying to get as much as they can. And, you know, we come from a system of where they exploited us for many, many years. Now, what do they do with the resources that they get? How are they building a better world, a better community, so forth, so on? I want to go into this particular subject, though. We can come back to that one. Brother Adonnis, what's happening in the Deshaun Watson situation? What is going on? What has happened? Is the brother stupid, or is it a total evil witch hunt?
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little bit of both. There's some truth to it, and then there's some that may have been exaggerated. Clearly, some of his personal business that maybe he didn't want to get out there is now kind of out in front of the world now. But it probably couldn't have come at a worse time for what he was trying to do.
Yes, and that makes people think that it was orchestrated in some ways or in many ways. But if he had not put himself in that position, they would not have that to use against him. Brother Clay, Brother Jolivette, y'all have comments on the Deshaun Watson situation?
Mr. Clay, you want to go first?
I'll go ahead and jump in, man. I don't have a problem. Well, first of all, as it relates to this, there has to be, I'm like a Brother Adonnis. I believe there's a level of truth to it, and I believe it's a lot of witch hunt too, because the deal is that I'm not a judge, I'm not a jury, I wasn't there, right? And the fact of the matter is, here we go, this man, now he's not happy at the Texans any longer. He's frustrated how the owner is handling things with the Texans. How he's getting rid of players. They're trying to build a championship. Now he's showing he's not pleased. Now all of a sudden, all this happened. That happened years ago. But all of a sudden, it's all these people just waiting in the wings. So it just seemed like it was calculated to some level, even if it's true. That means you've been holding this information, waiting when to use it, when he's no longer possibly advantageous to you as an organization. Well, we're gonna make it so it's gonna be hard for you to go anywhere. You're gonna have to stay put because nobody else wants you now, or get you to a point nobody want to take you and we let you go because your usefulness is over.
I certainly agree with Brother Adonnis that there's probably truth on both sides. First of all, he put himself in the situation. He was there. If he wasn't there, it had no chance of coming up. Brother Jolivette, you wanted to say something?
Well, I'm just saying, there's a couple of things that may be going on and wrong and right with this situation. He's a young man who has a thirst for women, which is no different from a lot of. I'll just put myself in this, who has a lot of thirst for women. I love women, always have. The difference is between he and I is that he has millions of dollars. He should have had a camp to protect him a little bit more, give him better advice, because it seems as though that he tried to go a different route as far as just maybe going to the club and meeting somebody outside that way. He went a different direction, trying to protect himself by going and, meeting masseuse, who I'm assuming that he felt was on the same agenda of what the plans was, his motive. I don't want to defend him necessarily, but I know it's going to be some terrible situations. It's looked bad. We want to protect our women. We really, really do. But it is a coincidence, a major coincidence, and very suspicious that everything is coming out right now when, these masseuse camps and these private places, these women still should have had a lot of voice. They have a lot of resources around there to protect themselves, whether it be camera outside, whether it be other people in the building. So it's a lot of different factors. Like, how were you not able to do anything? He didn't hold your hand. He did not hold you down. You wasn't chained or anything like that. I'm pretty sure he didn't go by himself. Why is this getting out now? Why did you not say anything about this before? Who else was at the facility?
It's obvious that in a way it was orchestrated. And like Brother Clay said, that they seemed to hold this, for a rainy day. So yes, but you can't deny the factor that he put himself in a situation. And if he was thinking, he'd have had people who go out there and find the resources that he's looking for and bring it in a secure environment for him. He got millions of dollars. Something he could have done much better than this. But we cannot say that if we know about, I don't even want to mention that in the relationship with Deshaun Watson. I was going to mention another football player's name, but I don't want to mention that in this particular case. Anybody else got anything to say about the Deshaun Watson? Is his career over? Yes, Adonnis.
No.
I don't think his career is over from the standpoint of if you can play, they'll find a place for you unless you get kind of like the Colin Kaepernick treatment or something like that. What I wanted to mention though was the situation's kind of playing out a little interestingly to me from the standpoint of let's say it is mostly a witch hunt. Before all of this came out, Deshaun Watson basically alienated himself from the Texans organization. And I think it's interesting that by doing that, let's say maybe at the early stages of this, maybe there was something that the organization could have done for him in support of him. But because of how he went about things, it kind of looks like maybe he alienated himself to where now he's kind of like on this island by himself with no support from either side. And I just kind of wanted to, I thought that was interesting how that kind of played out, because he kind of burned some bridges along the way that maybe in situations like this could have actually helped him.
But what if they are the ones that burn the bridge? They the ones that burn the bridge. They the ones that, because he said, I'm not going to be your boy no more. They said, okay, well, we going to get you. It could have came down to that. I mean, but again, he put himself in this particular situation where they could use that against him. Now,
remember these first two cases happened 2 years ago. Deshaun Watson was reaching out to these women through his Instagram page, which I'm pretty sure had his name on there and probably a Texans logo. There was some kind of way that these women, if they've really felt like a victim, they could have reached out to anybody in the Texas organization. They could have reached out to someone besides the police department, and they did not. And of course, I've never been in that situation where I've been a victim of anything like that. So I'm pretty sure it's very traumatic and all that kind. I understand that, but it seemed out of those 22 women, I know one has dropped. It seemed that somebody would have said, "Okay, I can reach out to the Texas. I can go there. I can call police. Something." Nothing has been said prior until this situation a few weeks ago. That's very surprising. And remember, this is going to go under the table at some point in time. They're going to forget about this. You got to remember, the owner of the New England Patriots, he had like 6 cases in Miami or something like that, Florida. He was going to a point, So everybody has their little thirsty interest. They just try to keep it private in the wrong way.
most definitely. Well, that's a big issue here. I agree with you, Adonnis. I don't think his career is over with, but I will say it's damaged for a while. He'll have to go through a whole lot to revamp it and redeem it. So they put a hurt on him, and that did happen. I'd like to go back to, I'm a basketball fan first. Well, I'm actually a track fan first. Basketball second. I like all sports though, but the basketball team, was it a one-man show of James Harden, or did that just totally disrupt everything? I mean, the team is now 14-33. Man. And when they first changed, you thought you had something. They won the first 6 games, but now, I mean, just everything and everybody's had to adjust to COVID, had to adjust to health and safety protocols, had injuries. What's going on with the Rockets? What's their future? Jolivette, what you think?
Well, at this time, it just seems to me, I've only seen probably about 4 or 5 games, but so just from watching those games, it really just seems as though they're allowing the players to learn each other offensively. I don't really think they're putting too much effort into their defense. I think even, ESPN and other, professional players and people across, the nation are saying the same thing. I think they're just letting this year be a source of team bonding as far as just trying to score. I think we do have a really lot of talent. I think there's a lot of talent on this basketball team. I really do. I just don't think that there's any emphasis on.
And they have 3 number 1 picks.
But why? You actually got 3 players on here who really can probably be your star player. Somebody that you could actually work with in the future. 3 players, really good. Their team is really confusing. Their team is really confusing about the things that they just allowing when you watch them. I mean, there's literally like no defense. It's not a good looking team to try to go anywhere or have any type of promise for next year.
I agree that they have no chemistry. They haven't had a chance to. I mean, they've had about 20 different starting lineups and different things, but Christian Wood looks good. Kevin Porter looks like he has some promise. I like the addition of Kelly Olynyk. I like that addition. So there's some room for growth. And you bring in a Cade Cunningham and maybe a couple of other players. Hey, who knows what this can be? Yes, Adonnis.
I was just going to say, I don't think you can really judge the team by this season because I feel like the GM, the acting GM, Raphael Stone, I believe his name is, he built this team. They built this team to surround around James Harden. I don't think it was a one-man show. per se, but it was built for everything to go through him. And without him there, it kind of makes it seem that way, as if there's not a lot of talent when really it's just not the right pieces anymore for who you have on the court. And I feel like they haven't really had the time to really build a team that doesn't have James Harden on it. And I think that's one of the things that the way James Harden did things by leaving like he did, I think that's one of the things that it does to a franchise like the Rockets. Because if I'm the GM, I'm saying to myself, I have James Harden for 2 years. Let me put these pieces in position to where they fall like this now and maybe fall a little different later when he possibly could leave. But now you just left me with all of these complementary pieces to go, and you're not even here. And now, I got to go and I got to redo basically the whole team, and I can't do that this year. I have to wait at least until next year. And so I feel like that's one of the things that a lot of the NFLPA and all that, they're going to be looking at how that happens. You just basically, this team went to the second round of the playoffs last year, and now they're kind of in the trash can. Like, how does that happen? Just because of one move, like what James Harden did, really? Because I feel like if he's here, they are a playoff team.
I agree with that, but let's not discount all the other trades that happened, maybe because of James Harden or while they had James Harden. Clint Capella, #1 rebounder in the league, traded for Robert Covington. And who's gone now? Chris Paul. They were a game away from going to the championship because he has a disagreement with James Harden, can't get along. They just totally squashed that. So, James Harden has some serious response. Yes, brother.
Well, I was just gonna piggyback on what you just mentioned, and it's something I've been wanting to say for a while. Chris Paul has made every team that he went to better, including the Rockets. They were one game away from winning the championship. They didn't quite do it the following year. But to me, there's something to be said about James Harden not getting along with Chris Paul. Because I feel like the true champions, if this is Kobe Bryant, if this is LeBron James, guys who are championship caliber players, they're not caring about how they feel about this player next to him. When LeBron James went to LA, who did he get on his team? He got what's the dude's name that always got on his nerves that played for the Pacers?
Lance.
He brought Lance to his team. LeBron James did not care if he liked Lance. He was looking at, can this guy help me win? And I think that's the difference between James Harden and a guy like LeBron. He's looking at Chris Paul like, I don't get along with them. Whereas if he was a championship caliber player, he would have said, I don't care about none of that. This guy's going to help me to get where I need to go. And he didn't do that.
I think that's the critical and key thing about James Harden, and we'll see how it's going to pan out. But we cannot deny he was a special talent. Brother Clay, did you want to jump in on that?
I say the same thing. Yes, Harden is a special guy. He makes things happen, but at the same time, like we just mentioned, like we started talking about what we lost. When you have a team that has chemistry, you can't go into a selfish me mode. You can't. Sometimes he take it overboard, and that becomes a downfall. So, okay, granted, you have talent, but you're not 100% on every shot. You're not 100% on everything that you do. But if you have people like these, like I'm just saying, like Woods, we had Chris Paul, we had Capella. When you're able to utilize their gifts, kind of like I said earlier, with like U of H, when you're unselfish in nature, who's going to help me? We all can win. Tonight may be my night. I might hit 40 today and hit 10 next week. But if you hit 50 and somebody else hit 20, we still won. It's about us winning. And I don't see those dynamics. I didn't see those dynamics or the unselfishness. I didn't see that. Talented, yes. You don't hit 40, 50 points and not be talented. So talent has nothing to do with the conversation. It is about the dynamics of team and not being selfish and making sure that you utilize the talents that are around you to make them better. That's why like I said, I used Magic earlier. He made people better. Jordan made people better.
Mhm.
You know, Kobe made people better. You got people like they can at any point turn it on. At any point turn it on, but they're not selfish.
And that's what I was talking about Harden. If he had been a visionary, he would have took the keys to the city and built what he was trying to build or what he was trying to say. So we'll see how that's going to pan out. Houston has 3 Black coaches recently. Dusty Baker, preeminent baseball coach at the Astros. Of course, it came about when the AJ Hinch was, a part of the cheating scandal. The new coach is a Black man of the Texans. Of course, Steven Silas, who has gotten a very raw deal. We don't know whether he can coach or not, but presumably, it's a good place for a Black athlete to be. But seems that is not the case. Why is that? What's going on in the culture? What's going on in the feeling? Is it just the relationship between the owner, or is there something different, or is there something deeper there? Adonnis, what you think?
I don't think it's has much to do with ownership or things like that. I think a lot of these players are looking to get to some of what they feel is bigger markets. They're trying to get to LA, they're trying to get to New York, and I feel like a lot of them feel like if they can bring their talents to a place like that, then they'll have greater careers.
But so many, we hear, so many people talking about there are people that's play in other cities that stay in Houston. You go out there with diversity clothing, you see what people say all the time, and you get different comments. We hear positive things. I'm a Houstonian, you are Houstonians. This is a great community. Of course, we're not LA or New York, but we don't necessarily want to be either. Right. Is it something deeper? Is it something deeper? Why they don't want to be here? Jolivette, what you think?
I mean, I think Mr. Adonnis touched on it. I think it's pretty much marketing, it's just business. That's a business deal. I mean, they're following the path of the ownership. It's not about necessarily where you feel as though you might can win a championship or anything like that. I mean, they want to win a championship, but I think a lot plays into the business, the marketing, how much money you can make. If somebody's making 40 million, if they go to New York, if they, roll with Nike or something like that, they can also party. You got to understand the mental concept of these young men, because they're still young. You're still talking about 26, 27, 28 years old, people that's making $40 million a year. They want to still party also. So why not go to a city, that actually values partying and everything like that. Miami. Who doesn't want to live in Miami? New York, LA. So when you can actually be there in that circle of celebrities, then you can have that. It's, so a lot of these values that these young, because like you said, when they retire, where do they go? They go to Texas.
Yeah.
This is how it is. This is where they go. But I think it's just a young mentality of, just the party atmosphere, because a lot of people at first didn't want to go to certain cities unless you were, a place that, kind of just shares the celebrity lifestyle to me.
Yeah. I mean, Houston, we got clubs, we got all that kind of stuff, and we got the quiet life, we got the bumpity life, we got all those things. I mean,
yeah, but they're agents. It's their agents also. They want to be in movies. They want to be in television shows. They want to still make music. They want to do different things. Their restaurant will prosper, or in different other cities or something like that. They want to be in that circle, and they can make more money over there, but still have a home here in Texas where the taxes are cheaper. This is going to be their area when they once retire. So,
I totally understand that, Brother Clay. What you say about that?
Well, it's the same like what the gentleman's saying, but what I'm thinking about is that a lot of these young men, you got to understand, the first part is young. They come into the league, 21 years old. And now you have a contract, 20, 30, 40 million dollars. No one has taught them finances. No one has taught them what to do. No one has taught them, all the processes of maybe sound investments, and even your circle of influence or your circle of friends, how to protect yourself. And then the transition from once you are retiring, like I said, a lot of people coming back to Texas. Okay, fine, but what are you doing if your career is cut short because of injury or because of some other reason, some accident? Freak accident has nothing to do with your sport. So no one is teaching them that. So all they're looking for is that microwave mentality, the movie star celebrity status, balling status, balling out of control, those things that shine. But when you have someone who's been mentored properly, and I know a few professional athletes, ex-professional athletes that were grounded, that they were made good sound decisions. And if you didn't know they played, you wouldn't know that they played because they weren't flashy. And so it's like right now we want everybody want to flash. They want a ball. They want you to know who they are when they walk in, and they feel some kind of way when you don't. So it's an ego. And so, yeah, they want to go to these different spaces. Let me go to Vegas. I want a city that never sleeps. Let me hit LA. Let me go to New York. So like they were saying, it's just different markets, but it strokes all the egos. That means I can party like the stars. I can spend money. I can do all these things, travel, really no accountability to no one. And then when it's all said and done, now they're trying to figure out something.
We start talking about in the beginning, we talked about, okay, these athletes jumping from team to team. And, we kind of had a little problem with that. But at the same time, we got to admit that there were many years where we didn't have the opportunity to have this money. Now, I think over time, and I'm talking about the future of the athlete, and will he come to a different kind of mentality? You're always going to have outliers, but will it be a more consistent thing that those that have access do more and build businesses, be involved in politics, build production companies and different things? Is that the new mentality that is going to be out there? You have LeBron James with television shows. You have Steph Curry with television shows. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be totally successful over the long run, but they're out there, they're doing it. They could be the next Michael Jordan. What is the future that you see with the athletes? Adonnis?
Well, I just wanted to make the point too about the players moving to the bigger market cities. We see from the James Harden situation how what they're trying to do actually in a way has worked. A lot of the media would talk bad about James Harden's game while he was here in Houston. Oh, he shoots too many free throws. Or he dribbles the ball too much. He's scoring all these points. He must not be a team player, all that. All of a sudden, he makes his move to Brooklyn. Oh, is James Harden the best player in the world right now? Is he the front runner for MVP? So that kind of brings me to my next point. And you kind of saw that with Kevin Durant as well. Nobody was talking about Kevin Durant being the best player in the world until he went to Golden State. Now, all of a sudden, him and LeBron were equals. Nobody was saying that before he went to that team. So it brings me to my next point, that I feel that part of the responsibility for this new wave in the NBA is partly due to some of the previous generations. And what I mean by that is guys like Shaquille O'Neal, guys like Michael Jordan, all of those old school guys, they've always, after they've won their championships, they're now telling this new generation, you're not nothing unless you have this ring. Like you fall into that Charles Barkley category where, yeah, you were a good player, but unless you have a chip, don't talk to me. You see Shaq do it all the time. Michael surely does it. He loves showing, flashing his five. So this up and coming generation, they see that, and they say to themselves, well, if I don't get this ring, then my career is going to be a failure. You even see that in some of the mentality of the parents. There was a big discussion not too long ago about why do kids get participation trophies? You know, you're either number one, you either won or you lost. There's no second place, there's no third place. And that's a lot of what the previous generations are teaching these kids. So now here they go taking that information and they say, well, the key to all of this is I got to win. If I don't win, I've lost. You know, and I think I don't really agree with that being taught to this up and coming generation, because at the end of the day, whether you won or not, you still a part of this exclusive group of people that's a small number that got the chance to do something that only a few ever get to do in life. You know, and I think it's in part the mentality of that this newer generation has been taught. There's only one place, and that's first.
Okay. We got to acknowledge, accept, and deal with a part of the Western culture. It's a culture of exploitation. It's a culture of competition in sports. It's a culture of competition in life. Our economic system, but it takes sports to a whole nother level, because we'll pay millions and billions of dollars to play a sport, to be entertained. You just start right there, what it is, as opposed to people who are teachers making only a slight portion, but you know, that's the values of our society that is embedded in us across the board. I mean, that's the way it is, and we have to deal with it. Talk about that cultural thing of sports, Brother Jolivette.
I want to make sure that I got it right. I mean, from how you were saying.
Well, I mean, as simple as this. As simple as you'll pay millions of dollars for sports, but those first responders, those education people. Now, I understand the reason. Sports comes from a private economy. That's that owner in coordination with the television station who can pump those salaries up. Whereas the education person or the policeman or the fireman, they get their money from taxes. So we understand, but there's a valuation that goes with that also. So that's what I'm talking about. Talk about that cultural aspect and how it affects us.
Well, I mean, you know, from the younger generation, I mean, television, the market, I mean, television, everything that influenced the younger generation, you know, the dominant factor is money and how to get it. It's the greed, you know. I mean, the system works well. The system that's been in place for decades, I mean, it influences and teaches our culture a way to move fast, you know. To get what's on television, you have to do certain things, and that's the only thing that can get you to be successful and to be happy in life. And it doesn't help when you actually get there, then it's flaunted, you know. So you have television, and you know, you have the sports, and you have celebrities that are, you know, doing things, whether they feel as though they're not necessarily doing anything negative, they are influencing the young generation and the young mind to kind of grasp the attitude or the culture or the mentality to, you know, to play sports and to devalue money and you know, what it takes to get there, self-worth.
I want to quickly say that it's the system that we have, and going to other places in the world, our system does work pretty good compared to other situations. So I am not totally saying negative against it. I'm not. Now, it can have some improvements. It can have some improvements. It has some things that it can fix and change over time, but it does work pretty well when it's fair. Now, there was many years where we were not allowed as a people to, I mean, Bill Russell, what he was able to do, he should have been paid millions of dollars and so forth. So wasn't totally fair all the time, and it still has work for improvement. Brother Clay, what you say about that cultural question?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of layers on it, like it was saying. I mean, from a standpoint of the peer pressure from athlete to athlete. You know, even the statement was made earlier about well, I got 5 rings. Well, you don't have 1 ring. Now, you could have been, like in Harden's case, one of the best scorers documented, right? Or Steph Curry got championships, but I'm just saying for Harden, someone like Harden, then to say that after it's all said and done, well, you haven't done anything. So that's where sometimes the loyalties and things of that nature kind of is altered. That creates a different type of culture in the sport. You know, the pressure, the peer pressure, and then not only that, then you have the successful ones who don't really understand the impact of that they're making as a role model. They don't realize the words that they say and how it influences people, how it influences the children, how it influences the other athletes. And then sometimes you have guys second guessing their worth based on somebody's comment. And so, but what was crazy about that, less than 1% of all athletes that even try to get to the professional level ever will see it. And so if you break it down, one time I did this several years back, and I want to say globally, professional sports is less than 10,000. I want to say it's closer to 6, between 5 and 6, to be honest with you. Because you think about how many baseball teams, how many basketball teams, how many NFL teams, soccer, whatever. And then you just think about how many they carry. Do the math. It's less than 10,000 in the world. But if you just think about even just in football alone, you have over 16,000 athletes every year draft eligible. We just talking about just being eligible, just for seniors. Then you have people, underclassmen going. Then you have the free agents. You have all these people vying for what? A couple of spaces? So it's not about talent anymore. And they all have the talent. Anybody that makes a professional team, they have the talent. But then now you say, how do you value the talent? Then you start talking about the culture, like I said, the culture, how they're making their money and how they're chasing money, or how they're chasing this accolade. And see, like you mentioned earlier about track and field, I don't know if you know about Drake relays. They
of course, yes, sir.
They only acknowledge, in reference to the platform, the champion only. So you can get second place. You could have broken the world record, but the other person that beat you is the only one they're gonna see. So it's a platform, and it just says Drake relays champion. So they'll announce the other ones that got points, 6th place, 5th place, all the way, and on 3rd place, on the, winning a 3rd place medal or whatever. But only one that's gonna be seen is the champion, the only one. So they put so much value on that, where people just, start second guessing their worth of all the work they put into it. When you are already an elite individual, when you're in a small elite across all professional sports, less than 1% in the world, that they don't understand that. So then to go back to the other part of the culture, and that is, well, they're not being taught. So hopefully for the new generation, and that's some of the things that we were doing with our organization, is really just trying to mentor the athletes on what to do when you get to the next level. So the teachers need to start earlier. It don't need to start once you become a professional. It needs to start when you're going from college, from high school to college, and then they really need the real mentoring then before the money comes. Because when the money comes, they lose their mind. Because you have a 21-year-old with millions and millions of dollars who never known how to do with their money, and they do what 21 years old do.
Yes,
so,
I totally understand that. This has been a powerful show, our 84th show on the Sourceseeker Hour. We're at the ending of the show. It's been a very powerful program. We're talking about sports. We're talking about what has happened to Houston sports. And this is going to be a continuing discussion. We're going to talk about other sports issues coming up in future episodes. We're going to even discuss the transgender in sports. That's a touchy subject, but it has to be discussed. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. I'm your host, Baruti Carl Alexander. I want to ask my guests to make a final statement of what you want to say about sports. Also talk about your business program, if you have one, if you're a coach. give yourself a shout out and talk about what you're doing and give your final statement and where people can reach you at if they want to talk to you, if they want to argue with you. Brother Adonnis, why don't you start?
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to close with is you asked the question earlier in the segment, what does the future of sports look like? What does the future of the NBA look like? And I'm going to answer that with a question of my own. After LeBron James retires, will there be a need for super teams?
For super who?
Super teams, for guys to team up. Would they even consider doing that if LeBron James was not there anymore?
I think that's always going to be an option because with free agency and the desire to win, groups of players are going to come together and say, hey, we can come together and win. And so that's always going to be a possibility. And when LeBron James leaves, there's going to be somebody else going to take his place. When that person leaves, maybe it'll be LaMelo Ball. Maybe it'll be Chet Holmgren, this 7-footer in Minnesota, who's shooting 3-pointers and stuff. So there's always going to be somebody new coming up.
See, I think it's an interesting question only because all the super teams so far that have been formed have technically been formed to stop one man. And if that one man ain't there, will the balance to the NBA be back?
I think the NBA will be all right as long as there's basketballs and hoops and a TV to watch them. And the NBA will be all right. And it's about, and today they're integrating into the culture even more. And it's going to become a bigger force. I think, sports and politics may become much more intertwined. That's what I feel. Hey, Adonnis, tell us a little bit about Diversity Clothing.
So Diversity Clothing Company is a company I created to basically be like the official and unofficial clothing line of Houston. So it has things that touch on the sports teams, has things that touch on the culture of the city, but it's basically made to basically let us have a seat at the table with some of those brands in New York, Chicago, LA. So it's Houston based. It has the skylines, it has the astronaut, all that good stuff that really encompasses what the city's all about. And you can shop it on the website, diversityclothingco.com. Just remember the C after the S in diversity is a little play on words. So it's diversity or diversity, whichever way you want to say it. And I also do pop-ups every weekend as well. And you can follow the Instagram page to see where we'll be next each weekend.
A lot of great clothing, sports teams, all kind of great designs. I vouch for them at Diversity Clothing. Where can people reach you if they want to, chime in and talk to you? Give your website or your email, whatever you want to give.
You can do the email at Adonnis, Adonis, O'Brien, Obrien, @gmail.com is where you can reach me.
All right. Thank you, my brother. Brother Jolivette, share what you would like to say as your final statement, as well as where somebody can talk with you if they want to say something to you.
Okay, I guess my final comment is I'm just going to bring up, do you guys think that Aisha Curry was trying to plant a restaurant here in the future to see how it was going to go for Stephen Curry to possibly, after he's becomes a free agent this year, to come to Houston? Just a thought. Throw that at you. Like I mentioned before earlier in the show, I work with Harris County Department of Education, but I also am the head women's basketball coach at North American University in Stafford/Sugar Land. So please come out and support. You can look us up on our website at na.edu. Our Twitter page is NAUWBB, at NAUWBB. So if you like sports and you're trying to follow some of the newest of the Houston college teams, please check us out. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I have for you, brother.
I thank you very much, brother. We appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Hope you enjoyed yourself. I want to interject another thing that is going to impact sports. I know we at the last hour, but the eligibility transfer in college is going to affect sports greatly. They do not have to wait before transferring anymore. And HBCUs are going to benefit some rewards from that. And you're going to see a little bit more balance in college athletics across the board, I believe. Brother Clay, give your final statement, take us home, and share where anybody can talk with you if they would like to.
Well, first of all, to take it on home, like I said, I'm from Houston. I love it. I love what we have here. I think we have diversity, we have culture, we have sports, we have entertainment. So I love my city, and I just, pray that, everybody continue to just find your niche. I think it's an opportunity for everybody to do their thing and to grow and prosper, and just support one another and support Black business. Now, in reference to me and my organization, I'm the president and co-founder of the States Developmental Football League. You can look us up on the web at www.officialsdfl.net. If you want to email, you can email at info@officialsdfl.net. Directly to me at Byron Clay at officialsdfl.net. And just so you know what that organization is all about, is really just mentoring these athletes, or like I kind of talked about earlier, of transitioning from being a professional athlete to a professional outside of the game. So we talk about life after the lights. So transitioning from that, that's what we're all about. 70% of our preparation is how to live outside of the game, because we know that less than 1% will ever get there. So we want to help these athletes when they get the money, what to do with the money, how to create diversification, how to create a brand within the brand, and do what they need to do to be able to be a vital part of the community. Like he was saying, what Harden could have had the keys to the city. We want to have athletes, no matter what city they're in, if they've gone through our program, they'll be a vital asset to any team, to any city, to any community, because it starts with the men. And so we can capture the men, we can actually get to the family, we can change cities, we can change states and the country. And so but it starts with the carrot of a football, believe it or not, but it's much deeper than football.
Yes, brother. And if they want to share information with you, where can they reach you?
Again, you can directly at Byron Clay at officialsdfl.net, or you can go to info@officialsdfl.net. Either one is going to come to me or my business partner, Mr. Garrick Jones, who also was a former NFL player with the Houston Texans and a few other teams. So he's a local individual that, like we're saying, we're trying to instill something back into the community, into the next generation of athletes.
Peace and power. This has been a great show, the Sourceseeker Hour. What's happened to Houston sports? I think we discussed it. We talked about it. We looked at all different angles. Very good show, powerful. And we will continue talking about sports, current events, and different things happening. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. Next week, we're going to talk about culture, Houston police and culture, and what is happening. And in relation to some of the other things happening around the country, what is the difference or what is the similarities with our culture here in Houston? What about the police? Have they been fair? Different things across the board. That's going to be next week here on the Sourceseeker Hour. And if it's Thursday, it's the Sourceseeker Hour, and you can always join us. We thank you. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.